Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'd like to give you an overview about the specific priority axis number 3, in particular specific objective 3.1 that is focusing on the improvement of integrated environmental management capacities for the protection and sustainable use of natural heritage and resources. Maybe first I would like to highlight what the integrated approach to environmental management is about, because actually one of the main topics is stressing or highlighting integrated environmental management, and it is a comprehensive approach to environmental management and planning, which is encompassing ecological, economic, and social aspects. Within the topics that are supported within this target specific objective 3.1, you can find, for instance, reduction and avoiding of future usage conflicts, so conflict of use between, let's say, agriculture, transport, energy, tourism, or other sectors. Further on, we are touching upon also resource efficiency as a guiding principle. That means reduction of natural resources usage, for instance, closed-loop systems. However, we are also supporting activities related to flood risk prevention or adaptation to climate change. Further on, activities that are supported activities should also capitalize on the location factors, so to further valorize assets, natural assets that can be found in the regions in which the projects are implemented. And further on, another important guiding principle is, because we are a program supporting territorial development, that the projects should promote sustainable regional development. That means use also of natural resources in a way that would be kept also for the future generation or future use. As I have already mentioned concerning key terminology, integrated environmental management I have already introduced. However, natural heritage, under natural heritage we understand natural features or geological or physiographical formations or natural sites or delineated natural areas, and natural resources are resources created by the nature, which can be either non-renewable, that means, for instance, minerals or fossil fuels, or a renewable that can sustain life. And here we can also count plants or animals or soil and water. And now for the presentation of the specific objective 3.1, I would like to give floor to Mr. Christoph Ebermann.
Thank you. Good afternoon from my side. I will introduce to you this specific objective 3.2, dealing with culture, which is very similar to the one Lubo was just presenting on the natural heritage. This one is on the cultural heritage. Basically, the story behind that specific objective is that we have been seeing in an analysis which we have conducted that there are quite some threats and quite some pressures on the cultural heritage which are leading to a deterioration of this cultural heritage. That's one point. On the other hand side, there is also the point that often cultural heritage is not recognized as a tool or a means which can be used for an economic development of a territory. And that's basically the reasoning behind having a specific objective dedicated to this topic, which is thus defined as to improve the capacities for the sustainable use of cultural heritage and resources. Topics to be addressed, or which we see inside this specific objective, are an improved coordination of the preservation and the management of cultural heritage, and leading to a sustainable growth. In order for doing so, you obviously need integrated approaches which are considering both elements, there's the growth aspect linked to it and also the preservation aspect. There are different aspects which can be found in there. You can have the valorization of cultural heritage per se, but also everything which is dealing with culture and creative industries can also be found within this specific objective. In terms of key terminology, It's fairly simple, I would say. There is cultural heritage, that's basically all tangible heritage, building, historic sites, monuments, etc. And also intangible cultural heritage, which are traditions, expressions, knowledge, skills, etc. As for creative industries, we also have quite a wide definition, I would say, that are industries which are using culture as an input, but having an output which can be mainly functional. This, for example, design, advertising, etc. That's for 3.2. For 3.3, there the story behind 3.3 is we are back into environmental management, which has this time a focus on the functional urban areas. The reasoning here is that the environmental performance of core cities is dependent of its surroundings. Just to illustrate it with one example, the air and noise, or the air quality or noise level within urban cores depend on the commuters which are coming in into the city from their surroundings into the core cities every day. Therefore, if one wants to work on the air quality or noise levels, it would not make any sense by only looking at the core city without looking at the commuters from the surroundings, or looking at the industries in the surroundings of the core city. And therefore, the specific objective has been defined as to improve environmental management of functional urban areas to make them more livable places. Again, similar to 3.1, the focus is on integrated environmental management, but this time really with a strong focus on the core areas and the surrounding areas, the hinterlands. By working in this topic, there is automatically the need to have to work at different governance levels, but also to work in different sectors, which can then help to have better planning, management, and decision making. This is, for example, illustrated if you have your core city, which is the city administration, which is the local level. If you want to work with the surroundings, you will then have to address either the regional level or the local levels of the cities which are surrounding the core city. It can be that these levels want to work together with the industry, thus with the private sector, and thus you automatically get quite some stakeholders from different governance levels around the table, which you have to accommodate in order to have good planning and management decisions. By doing so and having all these parts around the table, future usage conflicts can be avoided, and the goal is to trigger further and follow-up investments, which are then uptaking the decisions which have been made in the frame of such an Interreg project. Since within this topic, the leverage of funds or the funds needed to then implement at the larger scale such measures are outpassing by largely the funds which are available generally for an Interreg project. In terms of definitions, for the key terminology, functional urban area, I mentioned it already many times, it is characterized by a densely inhabited urban core and its hinterland, whose labor market is strongly integrated. There is no concrete spatial delimitation where you can draw the line, so there is no administrative border. That's really this idea of functional urban area, that it goes beyond the administrative border, and the area where you draw the line, it depends on which topic you're working on. For example, if you work in the field of transport, you look into commuting, into transport flows. If you want to work rather in the field of economic development, it's the labor market, strategic positioning. That's the frame of a functional urban area as it is foreseen within the specific objective 3.3, but you will also hear about this functional urban area later on within priority 2. Integrated environmental management, I will not mention it once again, it was already described within 3.1. Maybe just 2 last words referring to specific objective 3.2, which was on culture. We quite often see quite some projects being submitted under 3.2, which are considering our program as a culture program. But I have to tell you, we are not a culture program, we are a regional development program, and we are using culture as a means for regional development. Thus, mere cultural activities cannot be really funded in our program. We are not funding festivals or exchanges of musicians going from one country to another. That's not the right spot for that. That's just one comment on the culture. And one comment on the specific objective 3.3. We often see projects, because if you just read the title, which is making functional urban areas more livable places, it is sometimes interpreted as if you want to make your core city more beautiful, come and get the money in this specific objective. That's not what specific objective 3.3 is about. Thus, you really have to work on the environmental management, thus improving the environmental performance of the core city, and you have to work on at the level of the functional urban area. These two criteria are the must, I would say, for the specific objective 3.3. Within the first call, we have been funding 13 projects in the frame of this priority T3. Quite some topics have already been addressed. We have tried to cluster the projects which have been funded within the topics which you can see here. So we have some projects dealing with natural heritage, some with water management, one project dealing with waste management, soil and brownfields, air, and then in the field of culture, we have historic sites and historic buildings, and we have also projects in the field of intangible cultural heritage. However, we believe that there is much more possible within these topics and also going beyond these topics. For example, if I take the topic of natural heritage and biodiversity, we have not seen projects so far in highly value protected areas. If I take projects in the field of waste, we have only one project in the field of food waste. We have not other projects in the field of other waste. There is the possibility also to have projects in the field of resource efficiency. We have no noise project. We have no projects in the field of creative industries. So really go into the descriptions. There is a description of what the projects which have been funded. It's available on our website. Have a look so that not the same topics are coming up again and again. And this should give you a frame and an inspiration for your work on projects on P3.